Finding the best spot on the beach is tricky at the best of times. Get it wrong amid the shifting sands of lockdown, you might just get a visit from the community safety team. Would you guys be looking for groups that you think might be slightly pushing the boundaries a bit?
Yeah, really. Checking if they're family groups, they live in the same household, and just generally advising.
And don't get too comfy, because lifting restrictions now could lead to a second wave, warn a number of members of the government's scientific advisory group. But it's not only health, the economy's suffering too. Changing the rules isn't just about the science, it's also about the politics. The lockdown rules are different in different parts of the UK, of course. In England, here on the Essex coast, people are still meant to be meeting a maximum of just one other person from one other household. The rules don't officially change until Monday. From Monday in England, different households can meet outdoors in groups of 6, like the current situation in Northern Ireland. In Scotland, up to 8 people can already meet. From Monday in Wales, 2 households from the same area will be allowed to meet. Are you managing to keep track with the changing rules?
I've got bored of it now.
Have you?
I have. I've stopped listening to it.
Why?
Because you just listen to it over and over again, and it's the same things going on over and over.
Following the rules to the letter, are you aware of what the rules actually are today?
Not really. Honestly, not really.
It'd be nice to get back to some normality, you know, even with restrictions, just be nice. And the kids to go back to school is the main one as well, because it's going to be a long summer holidays.
Yeah.
It's going to be long.
But following these changes, what if the R rate or reproduction number starts to go back up? The SAGE committee, members of, have said lifting on Monday in England is too soon, and that lifting it is a political decision. If you were in charge, what would you do?
I think it's a little bit too soon. I would have left it another week or two.
But Monday it is, a very dangerous moment, the Deputy Chief Medical Officer told today's Downing Street press conference, and it's everyone's responsibility to do their bit.
So this is a dual responsibility here of government to go slowly and carefully and to take the advice from the scientists, of the scientists to watch this whole thing very closely over the next few weeks, and of the public in general to actually follow the guidance, don't tear the pants out of it.
He was then asked about the Prime Minister's advisor, Dominic Cummings, a penny for his private thoughts, when this is what he says in public.
In my opinion, the rules are clear, and they have always been clear. In my opinion, they are for the benefit of all, and in my opinion, they apply to all.
New rules, lighter restrictions. There can be no burying heads in the sand. The risks of a second wave are real.
Kemi and Zoran reporting. Now, councils in England are in danger of being forced to make sweeping cuts if they don't get more cash, according to the Local Government Association. The first full look at council finances since the coronavirus crisis struck in March shows the £3.2 billion given to them by the government to cope with the pandemic has run out. And they say that they'll need almost double that to get to the end of the financial year. Here's Anya Pop.
In better times, this community hall in Yeovil hosts weddings. During the pandemic, it's become South Somerset District Council's hub for emergency COVID-19 help. These food boxes are on their way out to residents in need. Those struggling to make ends meet, and those like Mrs. Mackenzie who are shielding.
My husband's actually got dementia, early stages, so we can't really get out at all, which because of the lockdown, but we're managing not too bad. You just have to.
Back at base, they're preparing food to deliver to hotels. There's still no tourists in the area. Instead, they're housing rough sleepers, all part of the emergency package to help some of the country's most vulnerable. But these emergency schemes cost money, and like many other councils in England, this one says funds are running out.
Every council across the country at the moment is looking at what they can cut, what they can stop doing. We're fortunate, as I said, that we've got reserves. Some haven't got reserves, and so they're looking at how they can stop themselves going out of business.
To get people through the lockdown, the government provided unprecedented support, including £3.2 billion for emergency funding for local councils in England. But new figures show that that funding has now run out, and local councils are calling on the government to provide clarity for future funding. They say without at least £6 billion in the next financial year, councils will have to make major cuts to services, or in some cases, go bankrupt. The Local Government Association says it's not just the extra services that have cost councils in England, but 2/3 of that money has plugged the gap from lost income from business rates and council tax. The government say they'll continue to work with councils, but councils want the certainty now so they can plan for the year ahead.
As we go into recovery, it's really important that councils aren't operating with one hand behind our back, trying to cut services while at the same time trying to help businesses and our residents in what will be a very difficult time.
For larger councils, they have the added responsibility of adult social care. In Milton Keynes, the council's community alarm centre are ringing around to check up on their vulnerable residents.
I was just calling to make sure that Mrs. Cox was okay, because we've been to she's fallen a couple of times, so we're just making sure she was all okay.
The government have been generous. They've given us around £14 million. I do fear that in the medium and long term, the government hasn't yet given the full commitment to particularly fund the money that we're losing, and that is really scary for us and will, if they don't come through with that money, lead to some horrendous cuts.
Although England has begun the process of easing lockdown, the economic impact of COVID-19 is yet to be fully felt. And as the government's furlough schemes and self-employed help starts to wind down, councils say their services are going to be more needed than ever.